All right, first of all, I want to thank everyone for coming here, which is a very, very proud day for people who put a lot of hard work into what we're going to talk about. And they call it ALD. It's adrenoleukodystrophy disease. And I can't describe the impact of that disease. I'm going to leave it to others who have had it in the family, have dealt with the disease to understand it better. But what I want to do is talk about this bill that passed that now requires that all screening for newborns be done for ALD. And if you catch it early enough, you can save lives. And that's what's so important about this bill. What is equally important about this bill are the legislators behind us. We have Representative Lonnie Reed, Senator Ted Kennedy, former State Representative Pat Widlitz, Representative Peggy Sayers, former State Senator Ed Meyer, Representative Vin Candelora. These are the folks who really were behind this bill when it first came out. And what it demonstrates is that when Republicans and Democrats get together, they could move mountains, and more importantly, they could save lives. And that's what these legislators did. They saved lives by getting this bill passed. That's no small task. And Gene is going to talk about that a little bit. I also want to thank Governor Malloy and Lieutenant Governor Wyman for their support on this from day one and pushing it through. It took a lot to get it done because there's a lot of science that had to get proved out, but without the cooperation of this administration, this bill would not happen. I also want to thank the Department of Public Health and the Commissioner for their support in getting this bill done and providing the services and the scientists and the lab techs who are doing the work that will save lives. Just as a quick background, Dr. Kelly and I have known each other since college. Jack and I went to Yale together. We roomed as suite mates for a while and then played football together. And I knew when Jack was dating Jean, and she was in nursing school in Vermont. And we used to take road trips up there to go out to dinner and socialize and have fun. And that friendship has always been around. And it was very inspiring for me to watch how hard these two and other families fought to get ALD on the list of Connecticut and be a forefront for testing. The fortitude that they have shown and others who have advocated on their behalf have been unbelievable. So without me talking about this disease and not being able to do the justice it deserves, I would ask that Dr. Kelly and Gene Kelly come on up and talk about it.
Thank you, Len. Senator Fasano, Representative Clorides, Representative Vin Candelora, former Representative Pat Widlitz, Representative Lonnie Weed, former Senator Ed Meyer, Senator Ted Kennedy, Dr. Razik, Adrian Manning, Linda Kowalski. We thank all of you. Our hearts are full of gratitude. We are going to try to be brief and tell you a little bit about ALD and why this is so important. So many thanks for your time and your energy you put forth in support of our effort to save lives through newborn screening in Brian's honor. The way in which you embraced our cause was very special. It was quite an experience, It was quite an experience. We simply do not want another child to face the challenges Brian has endured for 21 years. His courage and his tenacity have carried him and us, our family, a long way. In his quiet yet powerful way, Brian, you have been a very effective advocate for the ALD community and has inspired many. This screening is so important because ALD is a sneaky disease. You won't find it if you aren't looking for it, which is the importance of early newborn screening. It's genetic. It's passed by mothers to their children. To keep it brief, over time and unbeknownst to parents, brain function declines as fats build up and break down the myelin and nerves stop telling the central nervous system what to do. Sometime between the ages of 3 and 7, symptoms such as vision or hearing problems, headaches, seizures arise. These issues are often misdiagnosed. And in that time, it may become too late. The progression keeps going, and it may be too late. You can't undo what is done. Often, normal development in early childhood is followed by rapid degeneration to a vegetative state. It was such a relief when the Connecticut Department of Public Health implemented their pilot test last October. I could finally sleep at night. In the first 24 to 48 hours of life, could you hand me one of those, please? Every newborn in the United States is tested by newborn screening for a variety of heritable diseases. From a few drops of blood on this paper going through machines, Connecticut can identify 58 diseases. By including ALD in the newborn screening and detecting ALD at birth, they are giving these boys a chance at a normal life and saving their families the heartache that we and others have experienced. Now there is life-saving treatment, and by following the established protocol, we can keep these children well. Additionally, and what you'll hear today from the lab people, the newborn screening test also identifies ALD in females. They are carriers, meaning they have a 50-50 chance of passing the disease to their children unknowingly, like I did, Brian with the cerebral form, and our daughter Kathleen as a carrier. But with the knowledge of being a carrier and with genetic and reproductive counseling, carriers can go on to have healthy children. Perhaps one day we will be able to eradicate this disease. The key to a healthy life for a child with ALD is early detection. By leading the way, the second state in the country to test for ALD, we are influencing the national trend. And with our success and success in New York, other states are following our lead. On behalf of the ALD community, we thank you. Now we're going to introduce at the end. Okay.
And I just want to very briefly publicly thank all their friends and family that have helped us for years. Initially with caring for us and for Brian when he was diagnosed, being there for support, and then when newborn screening became available, helping us with fundraising and all the other tools we need to get this done. Additionally, all of our House and Senate people that have helped us could not have been done without them, and Linda Kowalski, who was our quarterback, with which we couldn't have gotten it done. Lastly, my daughter Kathleen and Patrick have been wonderful living with and taking care of Brian. Brian's been a tough soldier, a hero, is the reason we do this. And lastly, my wife, whose singular focus was Brian's care initially. And then when newborn screening tests became available, it's been getting this passed. Despite all the energy it takes, she's been an unbelievable wife and mother to the other two children. So thanks everybody for everything you've done.
Thank you, everyone. Our hearts are full of gratitude. I'd like to introduce Dr. Razik and Adrian Manning from the Newborn Screening Lab. And they have great news to share and can answer your questions and explain the complexities a little bit.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting us to be part of this important event to represent the Department of Public Health. I'm happy to say that as of October 1st, no child born in Connecticut is not screened for ALD. In fact, the newborn screening program in our state screens for 65 disorders, hoping that no child should be deprived from living a healthy life. It's our goal, it's my goal and responsibility as a lab director that before test results are released to healthcare providers, that these test results are accurate, are reliable, and are meaningful. And for this to happen, there is a lot of science behind this to take place. Starts even prior to reaching Connecticut. There is a national committee that really looks into these disorders and evaluates the science behind the presence of availability of valid and sound testing methodologies. And there is potential markers for detecting these disorders. And hopefully there is a reliable and meaningful treatment to intervene with this disorder. And then when that happens, this committee recommends to the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services their recommendation to add it to what's called the Recommended Uniformal Screening Panel, the RUSP. And once that happens, we then feel that there is enough science to support adding this disorder to the normal screening panel. In Connecticut here, the process starts by an extensive and comprehensive validation that takes between 4 to 6 months on average to go through the process of establishing the normal values, abnormal values, cutoff values. This is in no mean similar to any other medical laboratory test that's added to the laboratory routine panel. And once that happens, then all the technologists and the laboratory scientists are trained, and standard operating procedures are prepared, and then the process starts. But I'm happy to report that we're live, and even during our validation process, we've discovered few children through the validation where those abnormal values were reported and forwarded to our colleagues in the treatment centers at the universities for further workup on those children. Adrian Manning here is the research scientist in our laboratory who is really behind the hard work that happened to make sure that ALD is a reality in our laboratory.
So this was a long process. We validated over 27,000 infants during our pilot study. So we feel pretty confident, the method that we're using, the ability to identify infants that are actually abnormal for this marker, and we're very lucky to have the support of the advocacy groups, the legislative body, the treatment centers who are backing us up with the follow-up for these infants and the care for these infants and children that are identified. This isn't just identifying the infants, it's also identifying other family members that are possibly carriers or boys that may be of an age where it's critical to identify whether or not they truly do have ALD, to catch it before it actually has an onset of disease. So, I mean, we are thrilled to be the second state in the country to screen for ALD. It was a long process, but very, very worth it. So, thank you.
I apologize for my impatience in the process.
It has been, we've been
I
watching.
respect the difficulty and your thoroughness.
Thank you.
But it was very hard for me to wait.
Well, we appreciate your
you.
driving forward.
You have to, or
Yes.
okay, thank you. Next, I would like to introduce Patrice and Roger Dybel. They're grandparents of the first baby who was identified, Shepherd, who was born on January 1st. And his dad reached out to me. He found how the law became, how newborn screening came to be, and emailed me. And I woke up one morning and I had an email to Brian's Hope, and it said that their son was identified by the newborn screening, and he was grateful and he wanted to speak, Sam. And I went into our bedroom, Jack was getting ready for work, and I said, "We saved one," and he knew exactly what I meant. So you share your story. Thank you.
Do you want to speak, or do you want me to speak? I want you to speak. That's a switch. Good morning. We're here on behalf of my daughter and son-in-law, Autumn and Sam Ford, and their two sons, Ransom and Shepherd. They're unable to be here today as they have been transferred to Norfolk, Virginia, where Sam is serving on active duty in the United States Navy. I know they share feelings of gratitude and appreciation for Gene Kelly's efforts to require the ALD testing of newborns in Connecticut. Without Gene's determination and persistence, Shepherd and Ransom Ford would not share a bright future. The early identification is extremely important for those that have this disease, and it enables the families and medical personnel to monitor their child's development and intervene should ALD present itself. So,
we as a family thank you to those of you who have made this testing a requirement in Connecticut. Thank you, Brian's Hope, for your tireless efforts to identify this disease and the support you so freely provide to those families affected by ALD.
yes. Stay here.
Yep. So
I can't run.
these are their beautiful grandsons, Shepherd and Ransom, and they also have two beautiful daughters. And as we said, because it is genetic, because they identified Shepherd at birth, they also tested Ransom, and he too has ALD. So that one newborn screening has saved two boys. And their mom is one of four sisters, one still in her childbearing years, so it was important to test them and nephews. So one test, one save is far-reaching. And so these boys had this family moved away before the baby was born. Had they been in Virginia 6 months earlier, it wouldn't have turned out this way. So thank you again,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So now I'd like to introduce Jared and Tara Meady and this little bundle, Brody. And he was identified in April with ALD by newborn screening. And I had the pleasure of having him at the pool the other day. So,
Let me begin by saying I didn't want to do this, but I had to do it. I never wanted to stand anywhere talking about how ALD newborn screening, impacted my life and changed it forever. But 4 months ago, we welcomed our second son into the world, and we were happy and excited, and it was the best. And then just a few short days later, we got the news that he tested positive for ALD on his newborn screening, and it was something we wish we never had to hear. But we are very grateful for the diagnosis because it means everything to us. It's power, it's hope. It's our son would still have ALD, without the diagnosis, and his prognosis would be much worse if we didn't know about it. And fortunately, we live, in a period of time where we have the ability and the tools and the resources to effectively change the lives of so many for the better. And, so I want to just say thank you, Connecticut. I mean, you really care about your people, by passing this law. Other states should get on board as soon as possible. Start testing now, start saving lives now. There's no point in waiting. I want to say thank you for everyone responsible for passing this law, for the people who developed the test, who, decided to get it passed, the family and friends for lifting us up when we needed it. Very grateful for that. And ultimately, we're very thankful for, the boys that came before testing, who ultimately paid the price for, where we are today and saving lives. And to the families of those boys who, had to deal with the suffering as well from the horror of ALD. Thank you. You're having the strength and courage to fight on. So, Gene, you're a giant. Brian's a giant. You guys are all giants, and we just hope to stand on your shoulders and see it further, until every kid is saved and every kid is tested. So, thank you.
We would like to further thank everyone that made newborn screening for ALD possible in Connecticut, including Senator Fasano, Connecticut's Department of Public Health, legislators, and government officials, Brian and the Kelly family, and everyone else who has been involved. We will forever be grateful and thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We can't thank you enough. You have given us the greatest gift, the knowledge that our son has ALD. As scary and life-changing as it is, we are so lucky and blessed to live in Connecticut, one of the 2 states in this country that tests for ALD through newborn screening. Our son was always going to have ALD, but now we know, and knowledge is power in this disease. We can now monitor him closely and treat him. If it was not for ALD newborn screening in Connecticut, we would never know until it was possibly too late, and we would be looking at a very different future for our baby. Now we have hope. We still can't believe that every state doesn't test for ALD, especially knowing the devastating effects that this disease can have on little boys and their families. In the very short time that we have joined the ALD community, we have met families and heard other stories of families that have not been as lucky as us and have had to go through the unthinkable because they live in a state where newborn screening for ALD is not being performed. Enjoying life with your family and son, and then out of the blue, this horrible disease sneaks up on them, and they have to watch their son, who has lived a completely normal life, deteriorate right in front of their eyes, and some die to something so preventable through newborn screening. We pray every night for those poor families that are going through a heartache that no parent should ever have to go through, especially with what we know about this disease and how we could prevent the effects. Not only does the screening save boys, but it saves family members as well by identifying those that didn't know or are carriers. Newborn screening can save so many lives, which is why we hope and pray every state joins Connecticut in testing all newborns for ALD. We have to raise awareness and help save the boys. Thank you.
Also want to just let you know, Minority Leader of the Republican House, Themis is also here as well. And I'd ask any legislator who may want to just say a few words. It's a hard act to follow, but if you want to say a few words.
It is a hard act to follow, Len, and as legislators, we all come into the legislature with a certain area of expertise, but as you probably know, thousands and thousands of issues come up every year, and we don't know a lot about a lot of them. But there are many issues we don't know anything about because we don't know they're happening. And I want to thank the Kellys for all the work that they've done. And Jean, let me tell you, don't ever apologize for your impatience, because your passion, your love, your courage in fighting this with your own family, and just as importantly, trying to save other families, is what got this done in Connecticut. I didn't know about this until they came to me and other legislators and told us about it. There are so many things in this world we can't do anything about. We cannot stop it. We cannot prevent it. And something like this that is so easily prevented and stopped and able to give people and families lives that they wouldn't otherwise have is something that, quite frankly, is beyond me, why states haven't done it all along and why every other state doesn't do it. And I'm hoping that this is a message to the rest of the country that we're living a world that is not so easy now. When we find something that we can fix this easily and give people a quality of life they wouldn't have otherwise had, then we should do it without any thought. I think most importantly, and Gina and I were saying this the other day, she sent me a text, this is about the boys. And Brian, without your courage, none of this would have been possible. So thank you, Brian. The many, many boys owe their lives to you.
Once again, thank you all for coming. It's much appreciated. Thank you.